Hi, I'm Dave. In today's lesson, you'll get a student challenge, and we'll build a React Native CRUD app. I'll provide links to all resources in the video description. I'll also provide a link to join my Discord server where you can discuss React Native with fellow students, ask questions, and help each other out. Hey everyone, this React Native for Beginners educational video series is made possible by Zero to Mastery, also known as ZTM. I've been recommending ZTM on my channel for a couple of years now because ZTM has an amazing selection of in-depth, up-to-date courses. React, Next.js, Node.js, ZTM has it. Python, AI, prompt engineering, ZTM has it. Security, code interview prep, ZTM has it. When viewers ask me where they can go to learn more after completing a course on my channel, I recommend ZTM. And I always put links in my video description to ZTM courses, just like I've linked to ZTM's React Native course in the description for this video. After you complete this React Native course, ZTM's Complete React Native Developer is your next logical step. ZTM's course will reinforce the basics you learned from me and guide you through creating large-scale React Native apps that you can put in your portfolio and show confidently in a job interview. Look for the link in the video description and check out ZTM today. I've got VS Code open to a mostly empty folder, and that's what you want to have. You can have an empty folder if you want. You just see my git ignore file over here, and I've got my settings to show my .git directory. This is usually hidden unless you show that in your settings. So an empty folder, if you will, and we're starting a new project today. I'm giving you a student challenge. I'm going to help you get started, and then you can pause the video and try to solve the challenge yourself. And of course, at any time you want, you can unpause the video and I'll step you through my solution to the challenge. So we're going to start by opening the terminal window. I'm going to point out that I'm using git bash in my terminal. It says bash here, so some of the commands I use will be specific to git bash. So if you don't have git or git bash installed, you might want to do that. Now, I should be able to link to that in the video description to help you out, just so you can find git and it comes with git bash. Okay, let's go ahead and type npx create-expo-app at latest. Now, I want to say here, this is going to install that same installation we've seen before that comes with an example project. And I'm going to show you how to get rid of the example project. It does put in TypeScript by default. If you want to install all of the dependencies one by one on your own and not use TypeScript, we'll put in a -- template and then type blank. Now this will start a blank project, but I'm not going to do that because I can show you, of course, how to not use TypeScript like we did in the previous project, and you can still install this latest where it essentially does use TypeScript, but it installs all those dependencies for you. It's just so much easier that way in my mind. So that's what I'd like to do. I want to just go with npx create-expo-app at latest and press enter. Now, after it creates this app, we need to name it. I'll name it CRUD App. And then let's see if we need to answer anything else. I think that's it. Now, after it finishes, we're going to need to cd into that directory for the CRUD app. Okay, the install is complete. It says your project is ready. Let's type cd CRUD app. And now we can see here in the list that we're in that directory. So I've got documents/tutorials. This is on my computer, of course, then React Native series /CRUD app. So this will just show you where you are at. Now that we have that, let's open this up and you can see we've installed the same type of project that we did before, and it has that example project. Now I'm going to show you how to get rid of that. So once again, down here in the terminal window, we want to type npm run, then reset -project. This will clean out that example project and it will put it in a directory that we can delete. So I'll just press enter. You can see it says the app that it had with that project was moved to app-example. Then it created a new app directory, and then it created a new index.tsx file for now and a new _layout.tsx file. Now again, we're going to change these extensions to JSX, but if you already know TypeScript and want to use it, feel free to continue to do so. So I'll close this. We'll open this up. Now we can see that app example directory, and here's the tabs and the files that that example project had. Then it created this new app directory for us. This has the layout file and the index file that were created. Let's look at how to get rid of this app-example file. Once again, or a directory, if you will, we'll go back to the terminal and we'll delete that. And we can do that by typing rm. Now again, this is specific to git bash, the git bash terminal here. So type rm, then dash rf, then app-example, and press enter, and it's gone. So no more app example files to worry about there. We can close this out. Let's go into the app directory now, and we want to change the extension of these two files. So, well, you know what? Before we do that, let's go down to the tsconfig.json file first, because if not, it was going to open up and add something here. So instead, let's go here. I'll click on line 13 where it has the TSX. I'm going to press Shift Alt and the down arrow to just copy that down. I'm going to put JSX right here on this line and save. So now I can change those file extensions in the app directory to JSX, and it won't need anything else. So I'm going to right click, choose rename, which is also F2 if you want to do it that way. And now JSX. Again, I'm on Windows, so those could be slightly different on Mac or Linux. Do the same thing on this file because I'm not using TypeScript. If you are using TypeScript, of course, leave those as JSX. This being a beginner's series, I didn't want to put that requirement on any beginners wanting to learn React Native that didn't yet know TypeScript. And your student challenge for today is building a CRUD app, a to-do app. Now, that's all in React Native, and if you're not familiar with the CRUD acronym, it stands for Create, Read, Update, and Delete. And when you're learning any type of technology in programming, a to-do app, I think is always a great app to build. It's a standard thing, and it has all of those attributes of CRUD. So we create a new to-do, we read the to-dos, we update the to-dos, and we can delete the to-dos. So if you're familiar with React, this challenge is really for you if you're at that level. If not, you may want to just go right through the solution and not attempt this on your own. But if you are familiar with React, I think with everything we've already covered with React Native, you can complete this challenge. This is mine. I prefer dark mode. You don't have to use dark mode if you don't want to. And of course, if I open this up to full screen, it looks a little different as well. So when I have it in DevTools, we can see how it looks, of course, in a simulated iPhone here. This is, again, the web view. You can always scan a QR code and check it out on the Expo Go app on your mobile device too. Okay, back in VS Code, I'm going to provide a couple of things to help you get started on this student challenge. And the first thing is the data. So I'm going to give you 20 to-dos. We'll put those inside of a new directory. We'll name that data. And then inside of here, we'll create a new file, call it to-dos. And I need to just get my fingers on the right keys, to-dos.js. Now inside of this, we will paste in the to-dos here, and you can see it's an array of objects as an ID, a title, and a completed field. But here it's just export const data and then the array. So we'll be able to import that into our index file, and that's where we'll be using that. So I'm starting you out with that, and there's one more piece that I want to start you out with. So back in the layout, right here, we're going to have one more import, and that's going to be a safe area provider. So safe area provider, and you can see that comes from React Native Safe Area Context. Now that was already installed as a dependency because we installed that example project again with latest, as we saw. As a matter of fact, I'll click on package.json, and you can see the dependencies that are installed when we just choose latest as we did with the install. So this is the part that I didn't want to have to install each one of these things as we needed them. You can see some more down here, including the React Native Safe Area Context. So we've already got that stuff, and that's very convenient. So after that, we're going to use that here in the root layout. We just wrap everything in this provider. So safe area provider, close that out. Let me get the closing one and paste it here at the end. And that's all we need to do to be able to use our safe area view that's going to come from here. So that's the other part I wanted to share is in the past, in the previous project, we used a safe area view, and I believe we imported it directly from React Native because React Native does provide one. but I like the one that comes from this React Native safe area context. So that's the one we want to use in the index file over here. So let's go ahead and import that as well. Import safe area view, and you can see there's more than one that can be imported. We want the one from React Native safe area context. Now I'll leave it at that because you've already learned where to use the safe area view in this file. So this is a great time now to pause the video and take on the challenge if you want to. And when you're finished, or if you don't want to take on the challenge and just want to go through my solution, we'll do that next. Okay, if you're ready, now I'll begin providing my solution. So I'm going to start by importing useState from React, the useState hook. And then after that import, we're going to start setting up the traditional state and functions that we would use with the to-do list in a CRUD application. So that's going to first start with the to-dos themselves. So we'll say to-dos, then we'll have set to-dos. Now we're going to set that equal to useState, but we don't have any data yet, so we need to import that data. Let's bring that in here at the top. So we're going to import data, and that's going to come from, now I can use the @ symbol here and then say /data/to-dos. Now that we have our data, we can use that inside of useState. Now I like to put the first to-do that I add at the top of the list. If we just take the data in and don't sort it, or actually reverse it, then we're going to have the new to-do at the bottom of our list as we add them. And you'll see that logic in the functions as I add this. But just to let you know, that's how I'm going to sort this data immediately. So data sort, then it will receive both A and B. If you're familiar with the sort function, we'll have b.id minus a.id. And that just sorts the data as I want it. So it's kind of reversed the order there. After that, we're going to have a text input. So we can use state one more time. And I'll just say const text and set text. And this would be for our controlled input. Now I'm not going to have that as part of the functions right away. Well, I guess I will when we add the to-do. So we might as well add this now. But those are the two uses of useState. Let's go ahead with that add to do function first. So const add to do, set this equal to an arrow function or an anonymous function, if you like to call them that. After that, we'll say if we have text, we'll trim the text so we don't want any extra spaces there. And then inside of here, we need to generate a new ID for the new to-do. So we'll say const new ID, and it's going to equal, well, it'll be a ternary statement here, really. So if the to-do's length is greater than 0, then we're going to say take the first to-do, because remember, we reversed the order of the list. So this is the first element, the first object in the to-dos, but it should have the highest ID number. So now we'll say .id plus 1. But if that doesn't really exist, if the to-do's length is 0, then we'll give it 1. Okay, after that, we can set the to-dos. Now, inside of the setting the to-dos, it will receive an array. And then the array, of course, has objects in it. So we'll start with an object here, and we'll have ID. That gets the new ID value. The title is going to get the text from the text state. Completed will always be false on a new to-do. And now that would be the new to-do added, the new object. After that, we can just spread in the other to-dos, the other objects that we had inside of that array. And I just need to come down one more line after that, and I'm going to set the text back to empty for the new to-do after the new to-do was entered. So that's the create part of our CRUD app. Of course, we'll have to apply that function where it needs to be. But after that, we're also going to read as we read the list. So we've got create, read, and we'll do that with a flat list if you remember learning about those in the previous lesson. So we'll have a render item for the flat list. That will be the read. Now the update would be a toggle. So we're going to toggle whether the to-do is completed or not. So this function receives an ID. And now inside of the function, once again, set to-dos, But we'll take the to-dos state, so to-dos, and we'll map over it. Now we'll look at each to-do. And now, by looking at each to-do here, let's go down to the next line. We'll say to-do.id. If it equals the ID that is passed in, then we'll do something with it. Now we'll spread in the to-do, and then we'll overwrite the completed value and make it just the opposite of whatever the previous value was. But then we could have an else here as well. This is a ternary statement, and the else would just be the to-do itself. So that's all there is to that. And I should point out, you could really read this like a one-liner. So if I brought this back up here, when I say one-liner, just a one-line function, that might look more like what you're used to seeing. I'm going to press Alt-Z to just wrap it down. So it's essentially just the one line, and that's why you didn't see the extra curly brace or anything here after the to-do was mapped and we had the individual to-do. So it's still on one line. Okay, so that's the update function. Now we just need the delete function. So let's say const remove to-do. Let this equal to a function that also receives the ID. We've got the curly brace, and we'll once again set to-dos. As you can imagine here, we need to filter out the to-do that we want to remove. So to-do with an arrow, then the to-do.id not equals ID. So it's going to go ahead and keep all the IDs that don't match this ID. Okay, with those CRUD functions now complete, let's scroll up and see what we've already got for imports. We had text and view. We're going to need a little bit more than that. We'll also need text input, and we'll need pressable. And that's good enough to get us started, I believe, because we've already got text and we've got our safe area view. So that will help us at least get the top part where we're adding the new to-dos, and then we'll work on the flat list. So let's change this. Matter of fact, we can just delete everything inside of those and change this to safe area view. We've already imported that. Now, besides that, we're going to have a view that wraps around the top. Let me go ahead and delete this text here. So this view now is going to contain the text input, and it's going to contain our button, which, if you remember, the button is pressable instead of being a button element or named button. So we'll use our text input here. And of course, there's a lot that goes with a text input. I don't need a closing text input like that. I'm going to use the slash here. Now, after that, I want pressable. And inside pressable, we're going to have some text here. So this would be the text element that we imported. Okay, so, or I said text element, text component, if you will. So now we've got our outline here inside of this view for the input and the button that would be pressed, of course, to add the new to-do. Now, still inside the safe area view, here is where we would put the flat list. So let's go ahead and add everything we need for this top part first. I'm going to need to create some different styles for each of these. I'll start here on our safe area view though, so I'll have style equals, and I'll just set the names now, and then we'll define them underneath. Unfortunately, I wanted to add a different word there. Okay, styles.container. So this would be the container for the full view, flat list, and all. After that, the view itself just for the top part. So I'll have style equals, this would be styles.input container. And now we'll have the text input. Now the text input is going to have several different attributes on different lines. I'll start with style here. Set this equal to styles.input. Let's go ahead and add those other attributes here. So a placeholder, and this is going to equal add a new to-do. Then we'll have a placeholder text color. And let's set that equal to, I can get rid of those. Let's just set it equal to gray. Just a slightly lighter color than what would be the main text that we would be typing is essentially what I want. The value of this input, it is a controlled input, as we know from React, that would just be text, and that is the text state that we have up here. It's also referenced here when we set the new to-do. That's where we type it in. So it's a controlled input. And then we have on change text, and this is where we name the set text function from that use state hook up here as well, set text. Okay, so basically a traditional controlled React input, except we also have the styles here, and of course we had to import text input here, and then we have placeholder text color, which is a different attribute than you might be used to. Okay, now pressable is going to have a couple of things also. So it has on press, so when the button is pressed, we're going to call add to do. After that, it's also going to have a style, and we'll set this equal to styles.add button. Now we'll also have some text inside the button, so we'll set that to style equals styles.add button text. Let's go ahead and set the text on the button. Should just say add. Fair enough. And that pretty much completes that. So now let's go ahead and create the styles that we would have for this. And of course, we can bounce back and forth once we start the application and see how it looks, at least in the web view. And of course, you can scan that QR code to look at the Expo Go app anytime you want to. Okay, let's scroll down to start the styles. So we'll have const styles equals style sheet dot create. Now inside of our object is where we'll of course name each property that we had up above. So we had container first, and that went on our safe area view that wraps everything. We'll set that to flex 1. We also want a width of 100%, which would be default essentially, but we want to go ahead and set it at 100% if it's inside a container at all. And then of course we're going to put background color, set that to black. Now really, I don't think it's in a container, so we could see how it looks. Let's go ahead and see how it looks without the 100%, because this is just going to be out there covering everything. Let's go ahead and start the application now. I can type clear first, and now type npx expo start. And of course, this will give us the QR code as well, but I'm going to press W. Here's the QR code that you can scan to use your Expo app. I'm just going to press W to look at this in the browser so we can go back and forth quickly and apply the different changes with our styles. So opening this on the web, and it won't take it too long, and I'll check this out in the browser as it opens. That's fairly bright. Oh, we have a problem. Style sheet is not defined. We didn't import that at the top, I believe. So let's scroll back up here. Yep, we still need style sheet after pressable from React Native. Make that import, and that should make a difference in the application. Now let's go ahead and reload, and yes, we have it. Now we have an index, we have the header, so we didn't hide the header in our layout file, and we have the input here. It's not styled at all either, but the background is black, and that's what we wanted for the container. So we know a couple of things we need to do. One is let's go into the layout, and besides the name, let's set the options that we learned about. Now with options, options needs to have equal. You can say header shown, set that to false. Okay, with that, we've got an issue. I should have put 2 curly braces there. So one more here at the beginning, one more at the end. There we go. Now all should be well. Let's go back and take a look. And we got rid of that header at the top, and we have the add a new to do. The input is going all the way across because we haven't styled it yet at all, and it doesn't have any extra colors or anything else, but it's a good start. And we'll take a look as we style each thing. So remember, header shown false here in the layout for our stack. Let's go back to our index, and after we added the container, now let's add the next container, and that is the input container. So we call that input container. Inside of here, we'll set the flex direction to a row. We'll align items to center. Let's also set the margin bottom. There we go. Margin bottom to 10. Padding to 10, Width, now this one is inside of a container, so we'll set the width to 100%. Max width to 1024. Now that is an iPad Pro size. After that, we'll set margin horizontal to auto. So essentially, if it's wider than an iPad Pro, it's going to center the to-do list on the screen. We also want to set the pointer events to auto, and that will remove some of those warnings we'd previously seen in the browser. Okay, with those changes saved for the input container, let's go back and take a look at the browser to see our changes in place. Refresh, yep, that's pretty much all we expected. So now it's not as wide as the entire screen, but it is just a container here for that header. So if we were to, of course, shrink the screen down, we would see a change as well, but at least it's not all the way across. Okay, next step after the input container is the input itself. Roll for some room. Let's add a comma here. This was just called input. Now inside of this, we'll set flex equal to 1. Border color, we hadn't seen a border there before, to gray. Put the border width, if I could spell width, whoa, there we go, width. And that's at 1. Border radius at 5. Padding at 10 once again, margin right, 10. Font size, this will be better, 18, a little easier to read. Now we set the min width to 0, and so that will let the text input shrink if it needs to, and it might need to on some mobile devices. And we'll set the color of the text in the input to white. Okay, now let's go back and take a look at the input in the browser once again. Looking a little bit better, and when I type, it should have white text, and yes, it does. Back in VS Code, the next thing we want to style is the add button. Now for that, we'll set the background color to white. Remember, I'm going with a dark theme here. The border radius to 5, and the padding to 10. And instead of just running to look at that button, let's go ahead and quickly style the text for the button too. So add button text. Now here we want a font size of 18 once again, and we want the color of this text to be black because the button is white. Now let's take a look and see if our header is complete. It looks complete. Now this is the full web view. Let's open it up in a mobile view, and you can see how the input looks a little good, or looks a little bit better here. Type test, another to do, and everything looks like it should. Back in VS Code, it's time to add our flat list and of course the render item that the flat list renders. So we could do either right now essentially. Let's go ahead and put the flat list in place, and then we'll create the render item that goes in the flat list. So here's the flat list, and I believe we'll need to import that as well above, and the data would be set equal to the to-do state that we have. After that, we're going to have our render item. Now this is what we don't have to provide yet, but we soon will. Then we'll go ahead and set our key extractor. Because we don't have a key property, we have an ID property. So it's going to be item, and this could actually, we could say to-do here. It doesn't matter what we say as long as we call it something. We have to-do, then to-do.id. After that, we're going to say content container style, and we're going to set that equal to, we need 2 curly braces again, flex grow, and a value of 1. And then we can just close out our flat list here. Now let's scroll to the top and add the flat list to the imports from React Native. And after that, we also need an icon for the delete button that we're going to put with every item when we render our item. Okay, I'm back at that website we've previously learned about for icons that are available to us. And here I want to type in delete, and we should see a lot of different options pop up here for delete. I'm looking for a circle. That is what I want. And it's material community icons. So I can click on that, and it gives us the import statement. And then it also tells us how to render the component itself. So we'll leave this open. Let's copy the import statement, put this in VS Code first. Back in VS Code, I'm going to paste in that import statement for material community icons, and I'll be using the delete -circle icon from material community icons. Let's start defining our render item, and then we'll be able to put the icon inside of it. So after the different CRUD functions that we have, I'm going to say const render item. I'm going to set that equal to a function that has a destructured item inside of it. And then we'll arrow over, and now I'll have a parentheses here at the top. Now I'm going to start with the view, and of course we'll assign styles to these once again, but the view is going to wrap each item. From there, each item does have text, and of course we can put in the item.title inside of the text. Now we'll of course add the style attribute later. After that, we're also going to have a button. So once again, pressable, and inside of our pressable button is where we'll have our material community icon. So let's go back and copy that code to paste in. Back in the browser, I'm ready to copy the render the component code. So I've copied that. Now we'll go back and put it in our render item. Back in VS Code, I'm going to paste in the material community icons right here. And you can see the name is specified. Name is delete -circle. Size, I want to change that to 36, not 367. That would be huge. Of course, you can style all of this to your taste if you want to. I'm also going to set the color to red instead of black. And finally, I'm going to set selectable here and just set that equal to undefined. And this gets us away from another one of those warnings that we were continually seeing in Chrome. Now let's set the different attributes of these components, most of them being style. So this view gets a style, and we'll set that equal to styles.toDo item. And of course, we'll define these styles afterwards. Text is going to have a style as well. So we'll say style equals, you know what, let's put this on a separate line because this, once again, is going to have several different things with it. So style equals, and now we'll bring this down a line. And here we'll have equals, curly brace, then an array. And if you remember, we can apply more than one style property this way. So I'm going to have styles.toDo text. This would apply to all of them. But then I'm going to check to see if the to-do is completed or not. And we can do that with item.completed. And essentially, if that is true, then we'll have styles.completed text also applied. So just a way to check if it's completed right there by using item.completed and then the AND operator, and then putting that after it. Now, besides style, we're also going to have an onPress here. So onPress, let me see if I spelled that correctly. Press, set this equal to a function that needs to be called, and this is going to toggle to do. So our update function, and we need to pass in the item.id so it knows which one to toggle. I did have a typo there. That needs to be the equal sign. So that works out there. I can put this on a separate line to make it a little easier to read so we see where that text component closes out. Then we've got the item title, and then the text component truly closes out. So this is the first half that closes right here. But it has the style and onPress attributes, or props, if you will. And as you might guess, pressable, the button for deleting the to-do, is going to call our remove to-do function. So this needs to have equal and a curly brace. Then we start our anonymous function, and inside of that we call remove to-do, and we pass in the item.id. And we don't have any extra styles for pressable. It's using everything here from material community icons. We set the size and color right there. Now with the render item defined, we can go ahead and put it in the flat list here, but we'll still need to define those styles. So render item. Now we'll see it render out, but it just won't have the styles yet, so we'll need to define those. So if we currently look at the application, we can see the list has in fact rendered, but we haven't styled the text yet, so the text is all black, and of course not in the row we expect it to be in. It's here somewhere, we just can't see it because of the dark background as well. So let's go ahead and apply these styles and everything will look like it should. Back in VS Code, let's scroll down to the end of our styles list, and we just have 3 more props to add. So we'll start with the big one, which is the to-do item itself. And it will have a flex direction of row, and we'll align items, center. Then we'll justify content, and that will go to space between. Okay, after that, let's put in a gap of 4 between the items in the row, padding of 10, border bottom color of gray, border bottom width of 1. Let's set the width to full 100%. Max width, once again, to 1024 like an iPad Pro. Margin horizontal should be auto. And pointer events, once again, should also be auto. Whoops. Okay, let's save and take a look in the browser to see if it made much of a difference. Well, it did. We now have the lines, and of course our delete buttons are moved over to the right. We just can't see the text yet, so we're getting really close. And back in VS Code to add our final styles after the to-do item, let's put a comma here and we'll have to-do text. This will be a flex 1, also font size 18, and color I'll set to white. And then let's go ahead and apply the other style, and then we'll take a look back at the browser, and that is just the completed text. And here we'll say text decoration line. Here's where we want the line through, and that means that to-do is completed. And it can be toggled, of course, and then we'll just set the color to gray if it's completed as well. Okay, let's go back and take a look at the to-dos now, and yes, we can read all of the to-dos. We've got white letters here for the to-dos that are not complete. The to-dos that are complete have a line through them. Now let's check out all of our CRUD operations to make sure they work. So if I click on a completed item, now it toggles and it's not completed, and if I click on it, it is completed. So that works. Let's add a new to-do. I'll just type test, click add. There's our new to-do. Let's go ahead and remove our completed research for the article, and the remove button works as well. And of course, we already know the render item works. So we are creating, reading, updating, and deleting in our to-do list application. And remember to take a look at it in your Expo Go app by scanning the QR code that's available in the terminal when you start the application as well. Now in the next lesson, we're going to level up this simple CRUD app with some extras like custom fonts, a light and dark theme toggle, animations, and a very important part of the Expo router that we haven't covered yet, dynamic routes. A quick shout out to my patrons. Holy Coder is a progress provider, Sean Lynch is a senior, and my junior patrons, Programming Polyglot, Isaac, Will, Ernie, Stacy, Abe, Javier, Michael. Thank you all so very much. You're helping me reach my goals. Remember to keep striving for progress over perfection, and a little progress every day will go a very long way. Please give this video a like if it's helped you, and thank you for watching and subscribing. You're helping my channel grow. Have a great day, and let's write more code together very soon.